So when it comes to domain, we're talking about the x's, and I'm gonna make a rectangle to kind of help you see the lowest to the highest here. Okay, so I'm gonna let me make that go from here to here. Okay, so when I look at this one, see how the furthest that I ever am to the left is at -5, and I'll highlight that number there for you. Okay, so this one is at -5. That point, the furthest we could ever go. Now, how far right can we go? We can go to +3. This one is an open dot, and this one up here is a closed dot. So if the domain's coming off the x-axis, every point on this curve, the point the furthest to the left is -5, and the point the furthest to the right is 3, but not including 3 because it's an open dot. If we were to use our set notation, my x is sandwiched between -5 and +3. See how those are coming off the x-axis? But the directions say you want to use interval notation. So closed dots go with brackets and open dots go with parentheses. So this is, my final answer is bracket -5 through 3, and it's a parenthesis. These two things mean the same thing, but this is interval notation. So see how underline is a bracket, no underline is a parenthesis. They're coming off the x-axis, so the furthest left is -5 through 3. Now, if I put this rectangle instead of going along the x-axis and I try to emphasize what's going on the y-axis, let me just make all right, so when it's range, we're talking about the y-axis. So what's the lowest that we could go? And on this particular one, the lowest that we're gonna go is -2, and we're at an open dot over here. And the highest that this graph is ever gonna go is to a height of 5, and I have a solid dot. Okay, so my y is gonna be sandwiched between -2 and 5. Now at the -2, it's an open dot, so got this symbol, closed dot, so up to and including 5. Okay, so low to high, but let's change that to interval notation. A less than symbol goes with a parenthesis, so this is parenthesis -2 through 5 bracket. Okay, parenthesis, no underline, bracket, underline. Range is how low to how high, but for domain is how far left to how far right. Every single point on this curve has an x coordinate that is -5 up through 3, but not including 3, like 2.999. We have a point that has an x coordinate of 2.999, but not 3. Okay, so let's look at another one here. Okay, so for this one, we're going to go from left to right for domain. We're talking about x's, and it's sandwiched between a couple of numbers. So the furthest that we can go left is -3, and the furthest I can go right is +3. These are open dots up there, so I'm not going to put underlines. So we're from -3 through 3. But when we go to interval notation, no underline is a parenthesis. So it's -3 through 3 parenthesis. Okay. Left to right. Okay, when we change to range, your y-axis goes bottom to top. Bless you. Okay, so the lowest I can go is -4. Now, is that a solid dot or an open dot? Solid, because every point that gets plotted is a solid dot. So just highlighting the fact that's a solid dot. But there's a solid dot. Right, every point we plot on here is a solid dot. So our y's right now, the lowest is -4, but it's going to be or equal to. Now what's the highest we can go? Okay, so I'm looking there and we're going to get up to a height of 4, but these are open dots. So we can get to a height of 3.9999999, but we never actually get to a height of 4. So 4 is my ceiling there, but we're not going to quite reach it. Okay, so now let's use interval notation. Underline is a bracket. So we're going to have bracket -4 through 4 parenthesis. Okay, so let's do one more. Okay, so for the domain, we're talking about left to right because your x-axis runs from left to right. So the furthest we can go left here is -2, but it's an open dot. So we can go back -1.999999, but we never actually get to -2. So we're gonna have -2 less than x. And then this is an open dot, and the furthest we can go right is 3. But not actually 3 because it's an open dot. Okay, so then let's go ahead and do the interval notation. That's parenthesis -2 through 3 parenthesis. Be careful of that notation because see how that looks like a point? Go left 2, up 3, put a dot. It's a different context. Interval notation says the x coordinates of all the points on that shape are -2 through 3. Like I have a point on this curve that has an x coordinate of -1 and 0 and 1 and 2 and 2.5. This is -2 through 3, not including -2 and 3. Okay, so last one here, bottom to top. So if we're talking about range, we're thinking low to high. The lowest that this graph ever is -4, and it's a solid dot. We don't see it, right? But it's all of these are solid dots that get plotted. So it's from -4. Y is sandwiched between -4 and 5, but once we get up to 5, it's an open dot. So we can get up to a height of 4.9999999, but not 5. So up through 5, but I'm going to leave out 5. If I use interval notation, that will be bracket -4 through 5 parenthesis. So you might want to write in your notes, when you're dealing with range, you are listing from low through high. But when you are listing domain, it's how far left to how far right.